next Tuesday, I have a guy on, and we're talking to. We go all over the place, but we do hint on the idea of portals, and we talk more about the idea of mind portals, which is a whole different route to go. But I do think that I think things are coming through, and I don't think it's just spookies. I don't think it's just ooh, a thin veil and a ghost comes through or a spirit come through. I think these are very physical things that are coming through from other
Oh,
realms where
for
they
sure.
physically exist and operate in, and they know how to access more than we do. I think that there's a whole spiritual angle to that. To be honest with you, through the curse
So
of through the curse of the Garden of Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden.
could it be that aliens are simply demons?
Oh, that's a very real possibility. Uh,
Like, I don't know. People's talking about how they invoke the name of Jesus Christ in front of beings that look like graves.
yeah.
They suddenly want to leave. Just saying, we never know. Maybe Warhammer 40K was trying to tell us something.
Well, Warhammer 40K. What's that?
Yeah, oh, it's a tabletop game. But like some of the factions, there's
Okay.
like humans fighting against like literal demons trying to take over the universe and like aliens and stuff like that. And there's like one of the factions is they're like these demons that all look like aliens and stuff like that. And it's you some of your fans probably know what it
Yeah,
is.
I
Don't get
guarantee
into the hobby, Tony. It's too expensive. Don't do it.
it.
Don't fall into the trap.
Definitely won't. No, but I think aliens could definitely be demonic, but I don't know if all of them are demonic.
Mhm.
I think there definitely could be, along with a lot of this kind of stuff. I think there's imitations, there's replications, and so I leave a lot of wiggle room for this stuff. There's a lot of people who I respect from the Christian theological standpoint that do make very coherent arguments for the real existence of alien life off planet. Uh, and so I like hearing all the different ideas and theories,
Mhm.
and let the cards fall where they may. But I really I can't stress how much I believe. I really believe, and again, I'm okay being wrong if somebody proves me wrong. But at this point in time of this recording, I very much believe that there are physical entities. I don't even want to say entities. There are physical beings that are existing in other realms that do operate physically in other realms, and they know how to access us in this realm more than we know how to access that realm. And for a very long time, all that kind of talk was woo woo, weird, impossible sci-fi stuff that nobody wanted to take serious outside of occultists. And now I think people are starting to wake up to the realization that, hey, the only way to explain some of this stuff is the fact that there are other realms that things are operating in, and I believe there are real wars happening in other realms, and sometimes those wars spill out over onto this side. I think that this side could be an escape for certain things that are happening in the other realms. But we'll go. I'm just gonna let it go. So I, let's get into 29 Palms Portal, because I think that this is well, I haven't read the story, but I think this is something that I kind of been wanting to hear because I've been talking about portals and stuff in
Oh
that
yeah.
area.
So this one actually I don't think I've posted it on the page at all. So for the listeners, you get an exclusive. So this is like another instance of like maybe one of those slips, or like I don't know. I'll just go ahead and read it. So all right, I was stationed at 29 Palms, but took a quick trip home. Quick trip home to Santa Barbara for the weekend. On my way back, I stopped at Bakersfield to visit a friend, and then my way back to 29, kind of later than I had hoped. The only way from Bakersfield to 29 is some sketchy dirt roads that didn't have much traffic passing by. I was worried too much. I wasn't worried too much because I was already on the road called Old Women's Springs, so that meant I was close to Yucca Valley. And so, for the listeners, I actually used to live near Yucca Valley, so I kind of remember what he's talking about. Um, all that I could think in my head was, yes, finally I'll be off this sketchy, creepy 2-lane road. But darkness set in a lot quicker than I expected. Too quick, actually. I grew more concerned the darker it got. Pretty soon I was in complete darkness. I still had a good distance until I was off Old Woman Springs Road, which worried me a lot. While driving, I felt this sort of fuzzy, uncomfortable panic feeling, and I unlocked my phone to call my girlfriend, only to find big words on my phone saying, "No service." I thought to myself. I began growing more and more worried and uncomfortable seeing that I had no service, and only because I couldn't call, but was using GPS off my phone since that my service went out and I had no clue what path to follow or take the exit. Then I remembered that it showed Old Woman Springs Road was a straight dirt road that takes you to Yucca and nowhere else. So I thought, okay, well, I don't have to worry about exits, just go straight. I continued going straight with the feeling of uncomfort, I kept going straight, but the feeling of uncomfort and worry only grew. Anxious to get off this road, I began speeding up. 75 was what my miles per hour meter read. My mind went blank and I felt a strange feeling. Then suddenly I was driving on this two-lane road. Dandelions began slowly sprouting from the dirt edges of the road as I stared at these dandelions as they grew 2, then 5, then 10, then 15. I rubbed my eyes and opened them wider, hoping to see the dandelions go away, but they didn't go away. I wasn't imagining this. I thought to myself, this is actually happening. As much as I wanted them to go away, they didn't. These dandelions slowly began to dance side by side. I felt as if they were taunting me because they weren't leaving. The more freaked out I got by this, the more I pressed on the accelerator. 80, 85, 90, 95. At this point, I didn't give a fuck. I want to get off this road already. Anything to get me off this road, just get me off. My phone lights up. 2 minutes have passed since I lost service, but it felt at the minimum 20 minutes. I could have sworn that it was so much longer than 2 minutes. Text messages from my girlfriend come through. I grab my phone to call her. She answers. The relief I felt to be able to have service again was nothing like I ever felt before. I tell her to stay on the phone, please do not hang up. And then she asks what's wrong, and I said, everything's okay. I just repeat myself, do not hang up. Most of the call was silenced because of how afraid I was. My GPS reconnects, but I follow the directions. I just follow the directions. Then I began to pull off from the road and make a few turns. I look at the area and it looks familiar. It didn't look like Yucca at all. This area looked to the south of 29 Palms, but how could that be possible? I need to go through Yucca Valley and Joshua Tree still to get to 29 Palms. I check my GPS and it shows Adobe Road. I think to myself, wait, this isn't right. How am I here? It's another 30 to 45 minutes from Yucca to 29 Palms. I didn't pass through Yucca or Joshua Tree, and I know I didn't pass through them. I began driving down Adobe Road and past Stud's Cut. Sure enough, I was in 29 Palms, and my GPS confirmed it for me. Every time I checked, it wasn't possible for me to have come from the south side of 29 Palms because Old Woman Springs Road only leads to Yucca Valley. When I get back to the barracks, I checked my GPS. I didn't check during the drive because I was too focused on getting there and asking questions. After getting to the barracks, I checked my GPS and find that Old Woman Springs Road, and I found the Woman Springs Road, and sure enough, it's a one-way trip to Yucca Valley. But the trail I came off of, which I assumed was Utah Trail, could only be reached by taking the exit off the freeway coming from Arizona. I was coming from the west and somehow ended up from the south? I'm not sure how this happened, but it took me about a year before I felt comfortable talking about this openly. And then so the Marine sends me a picture of the kind of like the layout and to like orientate like your listeners. So Yucca Valley and Joshua Tree go west to east, right? Across and then come in from 29 and then ends up with 29 Palms to the west, to the east, right? It's a straight line. So he was coming from the northwest down on this Old Woman Springs road. So he had to get through Yucca Valley. He had to hit Yucca Valley and he had to hit Joshua Tree to end up at 29 Palms. Somehow, in this event, when this darkness set in, he saw these dandelions, whatever. When he comes to, he's on a road going north into 29 Palms, not southwest, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or southeast, as I'll say.
So he's essentially going south, out west, goes through this experience, and he is now, when he comes through it, heading north, out east. So like if the road is the equator line, you know, like, so you have Yucca Valley, Joshua Tree, 29 Palms, all in one line going through the middle of your line of sight, say on the page or the screen of a computer. He's going from on the left side of that screen down south, has the experience, and then on the right side of the screen is then afterwards going north in the east up towards 29 Palms. So he literally skipped an entire area, went to another area, turned around, and was going north instead of south. He never should have at one time during this entire commute be going north. That makes zero sense. And then on top of it, just judging by the image that he sent you, that you sent to me, if it was, so he said 2 minutes passed, but it felt like it was 20. There's no way to get from where he left off to where he wound up in 20 minutes, let alone 2 minutes. I mean, we're talking some serious mountain terrain road. This is a very long distance. I'm willing to bet from Yucca Valley to 29 Palms, you're probably looking at least a 35, 40-minute drive just on that straight line itself. It's wild. That's wild.
Yep. That's like, maybe it goes back to what we were saying, Tony. Portals and time slips, and it's maybe there's just could it be where some experiments? Yeah, cool. I mean, like, it sounds cool, like Stranger Things, but like Occam's razor works both ways. Maybe the simplest answer is that there's something going on. There's a thinning of the veil, like you said.
Yeah.
If I could read this next story, it kind of like even points more towards that.
Please.
So this next story is a little bit different from the portal ones we've been telling, but I think this kind of leads into like that time slip concept we're talking about. So this is called this is a story that was told secondhand. This guy swears that this master sergeant he heard it from was trustworthy. He believed him, and he believed him because of how he saw the look on his face, how it affected him. So here's the story. Here's a creepy story that shook me as a boot. This story is being retold. I had a master sergeant tell it to me during his first ITX supporting the 1st Battalion 12th Marines. I'm an intel guy, by the way. It was near the end of the exercise, or white flags, late at night. All of them were huddling in the battalion talk when the crusty master sergeant told us a story that when he was in 29 Palms conducting Mojave Viper. He was a lance corporal at the time and mentioned how one night after the battalion shoot, he was heading to his sleep site. He got lost under the low illumination caused by the almost non-existent moon. So he walked towards the sound of footsteps, and he was thinking he was walking towards Marines. He was right. He was walking towards a group of Marines in the dark. When he got closer, however, he discovered a fire team of Marines on patrol. Strangely, under the minimal moonlight, he saw that the Marines were wearing the old-style olive drab uniforms and rocking the Alice gear from the 50s and 60s. The team leader halted the Marines, looked over at the young Lance Corporal and back to his team, simply saying, "We shot the wrong azimuth." They headed away in the opposite direction, fading into the darkness. The Master Sergeant was convinced he saw spirits from a lost patrol from the training exercise.
What's an azimuth?
So an azimuth is like when you take the compass, you're shooting like a direction. So like he's looking at his compass and he's saying, "We need to go this degrees north." That's his azimuth. So it was like, I found it funny because they're just lost.
Yeah.
And maybe they got lost because they ended up somewhere they weren't supposed to be in a different time.
That's wild. So these were Marines just from the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
I want to know, how long has this been going on in this area? Could these Marines, the 50s and 60s Marines, could they have experienced some kind of time slip that put them into that location? They experienced that guy. This is wild because it's like two different perspectives. Like, he experienced the 50s and 60s Marines. They experienced him. Could they both have experienced each other at the same time in their own time slips together, but separately? Does that make sense? Like, it's weird, dude.